What's up, Panda Nation? Peter Von Panda here. Hey, I just want to go on a rant. Can I go on a rant with you about Elio Motors? I mentioned Elio in the past, and this is going to be a little bit of a stream of consciousness here, but wanted to pull up some slides because Elio is kind of at a crossroads right now. I think you may have heard of them. I was really excited about it when I first learned about Elio, when I think that was 2013, 2014, or something in that range. If you're not familiar with Elio, Elio Motors was founded by a gentleman, Paul Elio, an automotive engineer, to design a trike. Basically registers as a motorcycle, a three-wheeled high-efficiency vehicle, two wheels in the front, one wheel in the back, and tandem style seating. So the driver sits in the middle in the front, and a passenger can actually sit behind them. And so I was really intrigued with it. And initially when I saw them, the target price was $6,800. And what was really cool about it is not only I like the quirky style, but I had a long commute at the time. I was driving by myself, so I didn't care if the car was small, and I would have liked good mileage, and the price was $6,800. And the big thing about the mileage at the time was, let's take a look at the gas prices back in the day, right? So, and even in 2013 and 14, gas prices were still over $3.50. And Elio was founded, I think, in 2008, when gas prices were over $4. You remember those days, right? And gas prices still remained high for quite a while. They are nowhere near where they are now, which is part of why I think Elio is in trouble. I'm not going to prognosticate too much. They can certainly prove me wrong. But the business case, which I think was very strong right through 2014, now is a little bit reversed for Elio. They had this innovative purchasing model too, where not only were you not going to pay for the car, basically when you went and filled up the car, they were just going to double whatever the gas price was for you, and that was going to be how you would pay for the car over time. And I don't know whatever happened to that, but it would seem really cool where you were paying for the car and not getting a traditional car loan, and it really depended on how much you were how much gas you were putting in the car. So I'll be honest, I was really excited about it, and here's actually a picture of a video. You can check this out, the 2016 North American International Auto Show video that I put up. I went and checked it out. They had a prototype sitting in the lobby, so I was really excited about that. That was pretty cool. That was a car I checked out, and it looked good. I didn't put all the video of what I shot there, but I looked in the trunk. I kind of felt the fiberglass they were using, and I was pretty excited about it, to be honest. It was pretty cool. But I never did put a deposit down. So what they were taking were like $100 deposits or $1,000 deposits. Some non-refundable, some refundable. Now I use the word deposit fairly loosely here because it turns out it really wasn't a deposit. We'll kind of get to that. So you had to put this money down, and just my experience with Kickstarter and things like that is that everything gets delayed. So Elios obviously have been exactly the same way. On top of that, as you can see on the Elio site, it says $7,450 base price targeted. And so the price has gone up by $600 or so since then. Now, the other issue of why I didn't do it is once I put the configurator up on the Elio site, I did not want to drive with a manual transmission. And so this is the base car. The only thing I've added in here was the automatic transmission, and that's basically a $1,000 option. So all of a sudden, when I was looking at it, and it was $7,000 for the base car, $8,000 with the automatic transmission, suddenly we're now kind of getting into numbers that don't seem like just a dirt cheap, disposable kind of car price, right? And then if you want other things, there's a lot of things. Do you want floor mats, and do you want tire pressure monitoring, and there's no rear window, so reverse camera, and the custom stereo, and there were all these things that you could do that you would have, like, no carpet is included, right? Not exactly the world's most shocking thing. A lot of car companies do that. But so all of a sudden, you're starting to get into the slow boil where you're excited about a car, high efficiency, cut down on my gas price, kind of novel, kind of cool, and it's super cheap. And all of a sudden, you're starting to chip away at all these big advantages, right? Except for the mileage, except for this claim that Elio is going to be an 84 mpg targeted car, all right? So the price goes up, and all of a sudden we start looking at the mileage too, right? And we're looking at the mileage through the lens of gas was $4 and now it's $2, right? So, okay, my pressure on gas isn't quite there. One of the things that I think is BS, though, is I think about it, the idea of the Elio, and I'm sorry I'm jumping around here a little bit, was that, it's half the weight and half the frontal footprint. Well, mileage doesn't quite work like that, and but it does work directionally like that. So this idea that you're going to get 80 plus miles per gallon is starting to get more fanciful, in my opinion. If I look at a bike, a motorcycle like this, the Honda Goldwing, gets about 35 miles per gallon. This is a bike designed for cruising, and yeah, you could say, Pete, you're an idiot, man. This isn't enclosed. It's not streamlined like the Elio, So, okay, yeah, but it gets 35 mpg, and it's not quite as streamlined. So even if we were to kind of enclose that, we would get better mileage, but would we get double or nearly triple the mileage? Probably not. But the other thing is that I want to look at here is, do you remember a car called the Aptera? I remember it. I was really excited about this car too. Kind of carbon fiber and, Nomex or whatever the construction was. Also a three-wheeler, but it was designed to be an electric car. Very low coefficient of drag on this bad boy, just because of the way it was set up, in a two-seater. They actually had on the drawing board a hybrid vehicle, and it had projections of 130 mpg. Okay, so now we're talking better than the Elio, which is great. More than the 84 that they're targeting, but it's slipperier through the air. And then also the hybrid, as we know, is a proven technology. And I want to say that it only had like a 28 horsepower diesel motor as part of the hybrid system. So the fact that it had almost virtually no motor, and I think it's smart, go for a high torque. Here it is, a 12 horsepower diesel motor in the proposed hybrid. And only projected to get 130 miles to the gallon. All right, well, that seems to be tough to me when you're talking about a 3-cylinder, 1-liter, full-on gas motor in the Elio, in a vehicle that probably doesn't have all the advanced construction, with a much more questionable coefficient of drag, right? So now I'm starting to say, hey, is it going to get the efficiency that it promised? Is it going to be as cheap as it promised? Is the thing ever going to come to market, I guess, is the other thing. So the other thing that started to really concern me is why all this development on what I would think is technology in the car that's already made. So here's a press release from Elio back in 2015. They actually developed their own engine, basically. Here it is, 0.9 liter 3-cylinder engine prototype. I didn't find a lot of stats on what the horsepower is. They didn't have any projected, MPG numbers in a production car. But Elio did get a little flack from other places on saying, why did you spend all this money developing your own engine? And Elio claims in the press release, well, there's nothing else that could fit our needs. Well, I would argue that Ford's 1-liter EcoBoost 3-cylinder, which was a 123 horsepower motor and got pretty good, nice reviews in a lot of things. And that's a motor that was in a fairly decent sized car. Let's see if I can find a picture of it here. But I think it was the Ford Fiesta, and it worked pretty well. I mean, the reviews on it were generally pretty good. But Mitsubishi also had a 3-cylinder engine, if that's really what you wanted. And it was a little less powerful. It's 74 horsepower. But even in the Fiesta, this 3-cylinder was projected to get 45 miles per gallon. Now, if you kind of chop off part of that Fiesta, we're getting to a car package that is much closer to the Elio. And would you get another 40 miles to the gallon by just kind of creating a different package? I don't know. All right. And on top of that, I have pretty nice confidence, or pretty good confidence, in Ford of making a pretty decent motor. So it seemed really suspicious that they spent all this money, that they weren't doing other engineering. As far as I could tell, they weren't running a bunch of E-Series cars around with old pulled Geo Metro motors and testing those out. They're spending time and money on developing an engine. So especially one that I thought they could probably borrow from another brand. Now, obviously the delays are brutal, right? I mean, so we know that Elio has delayed the car at least till 2019 targeted. I think all of these projections are always based on if we have funding right now. And obviously now the new thing is The Department of Energy loan doesn't look like it's going to happen. I don't know why that would happen, because there's nothing about the technology, that's innovative. Particularly, it's just a gas motor in a motorcycle, effectively. So I'm not sure. It's not like an electric car platform or fuel cell or something like that. That's kind of an incubated technology that needs kind of government funding. I know people are like, oh, they should get the government loan. Well, I'm not sure what the case would be, because they haven't really invented anything on it. But now it's to go to the NASDAQ. I'm skeptical. I mean, I think they could raise some money that way, but let's just jump over there. Elio, traded over the counter. I'm not giving you an investment advice, but obviously it's been brutalized since it was released. Because actually at the time when they kind of launched, I think it had like $1 billion market cap. Now the market cap is under a couple $100 million, which still surprises me a little bit that it's that high given kind of where they stand. There's not a lot of action on it. I feel like I'm not sure how they're going to raise $100 million when the company, I'd argue, is it worth $100 million? Okay, so I feel like that is a long shot. I do feel like it's the only thing they can do though at this point, because it's basically they're out of options for getting a big bunch of money because they don't have any money, right? Let's talk about the money here. The setback for the Elio reservation holder. This was also something that I think opened my eyes, because there seems to be some debate about it on the Elio Facebook page and whatnot. This guy sued Elio for his money back because it was supposed to be a deposit on the car. And it's my understanding, I'm not an attorney, but it's my understanding that Elio did not have to give it back because it was not a deposit on the car. It was a purchase of a place in line. And so, I'm not, like I said, I'm not an attorney, but, the idea that it's fraud because you purchased something and haven't got anything from it was kind of invalidated, because you purchased something and you did get something. You got a number. That's your spot in line. And so it's kind of my understanding that if you put money down on the Elio, yeah, they may be locking you in at a price point, and et cetera, but it was really a spot in line. Now, that doesn't matter if they never produce a car. It's your spot in line and you still own that spot. So, bully for you, right? So that was also kind of another eye-opener for me, that they were able to win that, because I thought he would have a pretty good case that, he put a deposit down on a product. Probably no different than Kickstarter. If, those companies go bust, you don't get anything back, which is why I always am a little bit gun-shy about throwing down $100 or $200 or something on Kickstarter that you might not or never get. Some of these people, some of you folks even may have put down $1,000 all in on an Elio. So, yikes. All right. So, they raised this money on deposits, and now the question was, where did the money go? And I think there's a recent article about, so where's the money? This one just came out, and it was kind of an interesting article. I can't, vouch for how well researched it was, but I think, let's just call the numbers generally directionally correct. Looks like on June, they reported that they have under $4,500 in cash. Not surprising, given the trajectory of where we know their cash reserves have been. But it's just a little funny that Elio Motors couldn't afford to buy an Elio car because they don't have enough cash to do it. So where did all this cash go? And, I'm not even going to sweat all the numbers in detail. But, to date, $62 million raised, between the deposits, reservations, payments, I guess is what you would call it, money raised through stock offering, whatever it might be. $62 million is what they've burned. And so I'm a little surprised that we don't have a running car on the road, or even a group of test cars for that price. But I know the big controversy with the Shreveport plant and all that. But what I thought was interesting here is that this contention that $16 million went to Elio Engineering, which operates under ESG Engineering. President and majority shareholder Paul Elio, right? So because this is the crossroads that I'm at. A lot of people have been calling Paul Elio a scam artist, a fraudster, bilking people out of money. I guess I never really felt like that. Maybe I love the idea of Preston Tucker's car, that people are trying to be innovative and do things. And I really feel like Elio, from the interviews I saw, he's passionate about the car. I mean, they obviously built a couple generations of the prototype. And so I think he believes it. And I think, you could argue that a small car and a commuter car is the right thing to have for most people. I would agree with that. But I now kind of do think that a lot of this was an opportunity that presented itself, and it's hard to not money grab when you've got $62 million coming in, right? By using your company to bill the company that's raised all this money for a bunch of engineering. $16 million to ESG. I looked it up. ESG, I guess it's a private company, so they don't have a lot of information. I don't know how many employees it has, but let's just call ESG. $16 million that came in would probably support a group of engineers for a number of years here. And so if someone has information, I'd love to know how many people they have. I would assume they have other clients, other automotive clients too, as well. But my guess is that the highest comp person at ESG is probably Paul Elio. Now, on top of that, Paul Elio is the CEO of Elio Motors, and those numbers are a little easier to find now that it's being traded over the counter. And this is a number that I've seen around. I don't know that it's precise, but it seems like he's been compensating himself around $250,000 a year. Whatever. And I know this article, if you ever do want to look for it, it's at ktbs.com. It talks about a bunch of transfers, a bunch of stock transfers and monetary transfers that aren't listed in the reports as going to individual people. So they have anonymized some of the transactions. My assumption is probably Paul Elio is one of those key figures that's gotten some of that money, but I don't know that for sure. That's total conjecture. But clearly he's been paying himself a decent salary while, he's been chairman or CEO of Elio, and I assume he's also getting comped as ESG engineering. Now, where does this leave us in the Elio saga, right? Well, my prediction now, and Elio certainly has forever to prove me wrong, is I don't think we ever see an Elio come to market for a number of reasons. I think the one thing is that Elio is on the ropes. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, Elio's has less capital on hand than a lot of small businesses, I think, right? And so I don't think we ever see an Elio come to market, but I do think we'll see other small cars. The more time that passes, the harder the Elio case is to make, because car MPGs are rising, car sizes are getting bigger while the MPGs are getting bigger. And the one case, I've said this in some of my other videos, is that the Fiat 500e is a great car. Yeah, it's a starting price of $32,000 or $995, but you can find these used for $4, $5, $6,000. So you can find them used with 20,000 to 30,000 miles on them for less than the target price of the Elio. And I think, for the people that are really trying to be environmentally conscious, which I think the Elio kind of is attractive for, you can get an electric car for cheap. The other thing is like the Chevy Volts. I've seen used Chevy Volts for $5, $6,000, right? The Kia Soul EV, I've seen those for $8 or $9 or $10,000, right? So, and that's right in the ballpark of what the Elios would be targeted at anyway. So you can kind of get, I think, what would be the next generation of powertrains even in cars with proven design and reliability, as well as a dealer network and repair and parts and things like that. And so, do we ever see the Elios come to market? I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing them, but I think that the other problem here is if there were really a business case at this point, if there were really a strong business case for a car like an Elio, you'd see some of the, like one of the big three or any other automaker, even a smaller automaker, kind of jumping into the fray. And I would actually think like a motorcycle manufacturer like Harley Davidson or something like that would jump on this, because it seems like to take motorcycle architecture and then kind of enclose it would be an easy step. So I think there's a number of problems. I think a lot of people have looked at this business case, say, hey, we don't know that there's enough sales. You could argue 65,000 current reservation holders. Well, they have something like 400,000 or 500,000 for the Tesla Model 3. So they don't know if the sales are there. You don't know if you can build a car at $7,500. And I will say that it certainly seems like Paul Elio, being 52 or 53 years old, maybe nearing retirement age, is looking for kind of that big win to get himself to retirement, and is trying to maximize this opportunity by putting as much money in his pocket too. I'm not saying that was the motivation, but now it seems like the direction for Elio is getting more and more certain. And so why not try to, take care of yourself, because at this point too, I don't think that Paul Elio, you probably wouldn't be picked up by another major automaker for an engineering gig at the moment. So who knows? I can't tell you for sure, but that's just some of my thoughts. Man, I really wish Elio would have come around. Back in 2014, I was really hoping that they would build it because I was going to buy one. But just my thoughts. That's it. Hope everyone else is well. Peter Von Panda.